r/AskReddit. Reddit. What is your best instant karma story? When I was a kid, about 9 or so, my dad and I were at the airport food court eating while waiting on our flight. My eyes were bigger than my stomach and I didn't touch my fries. Rather than throw them away, I asked some lady if she wanted them free. Of course. When we get to the main lobby for our flight, lo and behold, who do we see? Yup. That same lady. She was in the main kiosk as a flight agent, and she let us know she gave us a comp upgrade to business class. That was the first time I had ever flown business class. Edit, thanks for the gold, kind stranger. First time getting gilded. This is like Reddit business class, right? Nice. First positive karma one in this thread. Karma is about balance. You could argue they're all good or all bad. In 6th grade we had a substitute who might have been insane. She would show up and start yelling about the most random things. Most people were too afraid to talk when she was in class. One day she was subbing another class and stopped me on my way to the office. She told me how terrible my class was and how bad of a person and student I am. I was a quiet straight A kid. I kept walking and she followed. She stared at me while talking and walked into a large metal pole. I just kept walking when she fell to the ground. I was at Walmart and some crazy lady who cut in front of the line and screamed at people for no reason went to her car after she paid and grabbed an umbrella to attack the person who was in the line behind her, who was leaving the building at this point. As the lady with the umbrella was angrily approaching the other lady, she slipped on ice and fell on her back. It was hilarious to witness. Sort of similar to your story. You think that we'll just wait together? No way, I'll be here forever. Think I'll just shove right past your cart, grab something sharp and stick it right through your heart. Now that I'm raging more than ever, you think I'm crazy but I'm clever. Went to my car, got my umbrella. You gon' get stabbed by my umbrella. Ella. I was commuting into Atlanta for a work matter. Dude in a nice car was cutting lanes and going like 90 miles per hour. To cars in front of me, he cuts off a Dodge Charger, and it flicks on its undercover lights. It made my day, since Atlanta traffic was terrible and everyone living in GA knew that. But it was douchebags like this that would take your commute time from an hour to 2 hours because they were careless and crashed. Atlanta traffic was terrible. So you made the classic mistake of trying to get into the city between the hours of 6 AM and midnight. If someone that isn't from Atlanta read that comment and thought he was joking, he is not. I got stuck in traffic on a Sunday at 2 PM. No sport event. No accident. As a teacher, I get to experience instant karma daily. One that sticks out in particular, I had a student when I was teaching at a middle school who was loud, obnoxious and willing to do anything for attention. We had just finished an exam which required stapled papers in order to be turned in, and he kept hitting the stapler against his hand with it open. All I said was, hey, if you keep hitting that stapler against your hand with it open, it probably won't end well for you. He responded with, I do this all the time. I've never been stabbed. Click. Student lets out the loudest scream I've ever heard. Bleeding. Crying. I'm laughing, on the inside hopefully, and sent him out to the office. Last year, I had a student who was just a terrible person. Like, no redeeming qualities. A total pain in the ass. Smug as duck. His mom thought he could do no wrong. And because he had an IEP, she was up every teacher's ass and tried to tell us how to do our jobs. So this kid was a sort of low-key bully. Not like putting kids in lockers and hit, but poking fun. Taking people's stuff. Just low-grade domestic terrorism against anyone he thought he could assert his power over. One day, right as the bell rings for the end of class, he walks by this other kid's desk. I was talking to other kids, so I missed some of this part. We'll call this other kid Doug. Unbeknownst to the terrorist or many other students, Doug is having a hard ducking life. Doug's cousin odd a few months back, and Doug is having trouble coping. He has some anger regulation issues. He's a total sweetheart most of the time. A really great kid and someone I respect a lot. But not having a good year. So the terrorist, on his way past, swipes Doug's cell phone off the corner of his desk. Retribution was swift. Doug stood up, grabbed his phone out of the terrorist's hand, and bopped said terrorist in the nose. It wasn't a punch. More like what you do to an animal to get it to stop doing something or back up. But lo. That hit was just the right velocity and angle and power to give the terrorist a glorious nosebleed. A good one. Too. Not just a trickle. Double barrel. Terrorist comes up to me holding his nose and asks to go to the nurse. This is the point at which I get the full story. Neither the terrorist nor Daug denies any part of the story. And Daug is just trying to hold himself together so he doesn't murder anyone. Before I even say anything to him, he says, "I'll go see my guidance counselor." I write the terrorist a note for the nurse and send him on his way as well. Of course, Daug got in trouble, as you should for hitting someone. But he took it like a champ and used his in-house suspension time to get caught up on all his work. Later that year, I nominated him for an award and he got to have a fancy lunch and miss 2 classes to get his award. The terrorist never even looked at Daug again. I wish I could say that the terrorist changed his ways. But from what little I've seen of him this year, he's worse. Mommy's little nightmare is going to end up in juvie before he ends up in college. I read bopped as booped. Then your explanation of said boop cemented in my brain that it was, in fact, a boop. I didn't catch it until I reread it. That one karma point I give myself every time I make a comment. Edit. This single comment has generated more karma than my entire time spent on Reddit. How crazy amazing to comment. He said. How endlessly splendid to post in a thread. How clearly sincerely and dearly divine. Fantastic and famously flawlessly fine. I write. He remarked. With delight and a smile. Opine for a moment. And after a while, I turn to my page and I stare at the score. I see that it's risen a little bit more. And so, with a laugh of enjoyment and glee, he posted his comment for Reddit to see. He sighed with a flourish of pleasure and pride. He read the responses. Your hit. They replied. Carrot carrot carrot. He cautiously opened the latest reply. He silently stared with a sad little sigh. He looked and he lingered. Then lowered his head. Whatever. He whispered, I'm awesome. He said. Carrot carrot carrot. A guy stole my bike from a rack a couple of weeks ago. When people approached him, he took off on foot and got hit by a car, making it much easier for the police to find and arrest him. The poor woman that hit him was distraught and convinced she killed him, but he ended up with just some SC8s and bruises. Edit. Okay. Here's what happened. The guy was only able to ride about 2 blocks before me, and my mom pulled up in her car, ordering him off the bike. Other people joined in. He hopped off the bike, apologized. He even put down the kickstand and started running the opposite direction, presumably trying to make it to the train station a couple blocks away. He only made it a block or 2 on foot before getting hit by the car. We ended up having to identify him in the back of an ambulance along with a couple who saw the whole thing. I felt bad for him because he got off the bike and apologized. But I realized that he would not have gotten hit if he wasn't doing something illegal in the first place. Sorry if I did this wrong. But this is my first time replying. Edit. Typus. Why didn't he just use the bike to run? Can't run as fast on a bike. When I was in high school, there was always a bit of a bottleneck to get out of the student parking lot at the end of the day. Basically you had to let people pull out of the aisles as you came down the side so you could leave. I'll let a car go from the last aisle. And then this guy I knew, the weirdest, douchiest kid in the school, tried to give himself the worst, cringiest nicknames on multiple occasions, darted out in front of me, and then he and the diphits in his car started pointing and laughing at me while he was looking back at me. He rear-ended the car in front of him. Edit. Since I've been asked several times. This was in court, about 20 minutes east of Hartford. And no, his name was not Kevin. What were the nicknames? His last name began with an N. So let's just say his last name was Nelson. One of the nicknames was Naughty by Nelson, and the other was Poison. The same kid also used to wear one glove to football practice, like he was Michael Jackson. He also purchased and wore every day for 3 years a varsity letter jacket with no varsity letter, and once replaced pieces of his car's engine with plastic so he could spray paint them blue. They subsequently melted. Obviously. Had just passed my driving test in UK and got a car. Knew the road had speed cameras on, so was being very careful, and this van behind me was telling me. He was obviously annoyed at me observing the speed limit. Overtook and got flashed by the speed camera just ahead. Ha. Similar story. I work for a city and know where the police like to set up their speed traps during the day. So I'm going around the corner going the proper 30 km/h because it's a school zone, though it feels painfully slow because the road is so wide. The dude in the fancy Mercedes behind me got impatient and sped around me, only to be flagged down by a police officer around the corner. It felt so good. When I'm driving in a new area behind a local and they slow down suddenly, I slow down too. If that's not a hint that something is coming up, I don't know what is. My dad stopped paying my college tuition without telling me. I would have understood if he told me, which resulted in me going to school to register for classes and being told I couldn't. But I had already signed a semester lease on a condo and ended having to leave campus shortly after and go back home to work full time until I got off on my own. Christmas, my dad had me a $5 lottery ticket in my stocking and I won $30. 000. That's still a really hitty thing for your dad to do. Did he ever tell you why he stopped paying your tuition? My older brother did absolutely nothing with his degree from same school, so saw no value in it. In reality, my brother was and is just a loser. Got to work and immediately got asked to deal with a difficult customer who had rang the store from a parking bay in our car park. Lady says she has the wrong frozen drink and wants a refund and a replacement, literally a $1. I take out the $1 and try to find out what drink she wants. She goes off because she also wanted a refund for the fries because the event has made her sick to her stomach because of bad customer service. I say that I didn't know she wanted a full refund as it wasn't mentioned on the phone, literally as I walked into the office. She keeps going on about how she is now going to be late for the 4 minutes she spent in park and rants for 5 more minutes about service before I tell her that I'm going to get her refund to try and make sure she still gets to her event. She throws the bag of fries at me, hitting me in the chest, and I grab it and walk off to get her refund. Keeps yelling until I get back with the $2.60. Turns out the man behind her watched the whole thing, and because she was in a company car he reported her to the company, Tupperware. She was fired that afternoon. The lady then tried to get me fired, saying I caused it and to get compensation. Our customer service team laughed at her and eventually my owner had to call her. When he called her she started swearing at him and he told her, "If you're going to swear at me, I'm going to tell Tupperware," again, and hung up. Only time I think the abused staff member has actually had a big win in my job. "If you're going to swear at me, I'm going to tell Tupperware," again. My side's left orbit. No way you'll bounce back from that. Unless you're made of rubber. I was on the beach with my family. My young brother fell on the water and got a face full of sand. I was laughing miles off when a huge wave came behind me, hit me hard, and I got a mouthful of salt water. My dad laughed his ass off. But what happened to him? He got /u/coldy as a son. Asshole at work was spending all day ducking around on his new phone. This was when iPhones were new. And showing it off before dropping it onto the grill. Grilled apples aren't too bad, you could make a pie. Lobbies and pizzas are still more efficient for healing. A woman was 70 cents short on her purse. So I let it go. When counting her change I noticed a 1960 silver dime. Is it a valuable dime? It's worth at least $0.10. My so sent me that video of the girl who was trying to make a curling iron tutorial for YouTube and accidentally burned her hair off. So made fun of her pretty relentlessly. She was in the UK at the time visiting her grandmother. Had a cheap plug adapter which apparently didn't account for the voltage difference. And burned her own hair off with her curling iron the next day. For an added dose of karma. Her pain is your pain. 4 years to come. Ducking, like and subscribe.